Gentle, atmospheric ambient music begins and continues softly in the background throughout. The 2 a.m. knock, it's wearing her face. Emma had always dreamt of a life less hurried, a slower rhythm than the city could offer. So, when the quaint, ivy-clad cottage on the edge of the quiet village of Oakhaven appeared on her radar, it felt like fate. Willow Creek Cottage, nestled among ancient oaks, promised tranquility, and for a week it delivered. The air was crisp, the only sounds were birdsong and the distant bleating of sheep. The villagers, when she met them, were polite, offering brief, almost shy smiles, but always seemed to hold a certain distance, a quiet reserve that Emma initially put down to rural shyness. Her second week in Willow Creek began like the first, idyllic and peaceful, until Tuesday night. She drifted off to sleep, lulled by the gentle patter of rain against her window pane. Then, at exactly 2 a.m., it started. A distinct, deliberate knock. Not a tentative tap, but a firm, resonant thud against her solid oak front door. Emma, startled awake, held her breath, listening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exactly 7 knocks. Then silence. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Who on earth would be at her door at this hour, in a village where most people were asleep by 10? She crept from her bed, bare feet cold on the wooden floorboards. The air in the hallway felt suddenly heavy. She peered through the narrow frosted glass beside the door. Nothing. Just the inky blackness of the night, barely pierced by the faint glow of the distant village street lamp. Taking a deep, shaky breath, she unlatched the heavy bolt and slowly, cautiously pulled the door open. The cold night air rushed in, carrying the scent of damp earth and ancient trees. She looked left, then right, straining her eyes into the darkness. No one. The porch light cast long, dancing shadows, but there was no figure, no retreating silhouette, no sign of anyone at all. Only the faint whisper of the wind through the leaves. Confused, a little unnerved, Emma closed the door, bolted it, and returned to her bed, sleep elusive for the rest of the night. The next night, it happened again. Exactly 2 a.m., 7 precise knocks. And again, no one was there when she opened the door. And then the night after that. It became a chilling ritual. Every single night, the 7 knocks at 2 a.m., followed by an empty doorstep. Emma tried to rationalize it. A branch hitting the door? No, the sound was too distinct, too deliberate, too consistent. A prank? Unlikely in such a quiet, seemingly innocent village. And who would be so dedicated? The initial confusion morphed into a profound unease, then a creeping dread that began to seep into her days. She found herself watching the clock as 2 a.m. approached, her stomach tightening with a mixture of fear and a strange, morbid curiosity. One Friday morning, after another fruitless opening of the door to an empty night, Emma decided she couldn't take it anymore. She needed answers. She drove to the nearest town and bought a small, motion-activated security camera. That evening, with trembling hands, she carefully positioned it on a shelf inside her living room, pointing directly at the front door. It had a night vision mode and a small internal light that would only activate if motion was detected. She ensured the view was clear, capturing the entire door and a good portion of the small hallway. Tonight, she whispered to herself, a strange mix of fear and determination in her voice, we find out. She climbed into bed, her nerves stretched taut. Despite her apprehension, exhaustion eventually claimed her, and she drifted off. The next morning, Emma woke with a jolt, her eyes immediately scanning the clock. 7:30 a.m. No knocking had woken her. Had it finally stopped? A wave of relief washed over her. quickly followed by a pang of disappointment. Had she missed it, or had it just not happened? She practically leaped out of bed and made a beeline for the camera. Her fingers fumbled as she disconnected it and plugged it into her laptop. The video file loaded. She fast-forwarded through hours of static footage of her peaceful living room. Then, at exactly 2 a.m., the screen flickered. Emma gasped, leaning closer to the screen. Her own figure, dressed in her night clothes, was slowly, deliberately walking from the direction of her bedroom. Her eyes were wide open, yet unfocused, vacant. She moved with an unsettling fluidity, almost gliding. She reached the front door, her hand extending, not to the handle, but to the door itself. And then she knocked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Emma watched horrified as she herself was the source of the knocks. But that wasn't the worst of it. The sleepwalking Emma then unlatched the bolt, her movements precise and unhesitating. She pulled the door open, not with caution, but with an eerie readiness. The night vision footage showed only the dark expanse beyond the threshold. Then, the sleepwalking Emma leaned out slightly, her head tilting as if listening to an unheard voice. And then her lips parted, and a whisper, chillingly clear, emanated from her. "I'm ready now." The sleepwalking Emma then stood for a moment, head still tilted, before slowly backing away from the door, closing and bolting it with the same unsettling precision. She then turned and glided back towards her bedroom, disappearing from the frame. The footage continued, showing only the empty living room until morning light began to filter through the windows. Emma stared at the frozen image on her screen, her own vacant eyes looking back at her. The blood ran cold in her veins. She had been doing it. She had been knocking. She had been whispering, "I'm ready now." But to whom and why? Did she remember nothing? She closed the laptop, a cold dread settling in her bones. She needed to splash water on her face to make sense of this nightmare. As she walked towards her bathroom, her foot caught on something. She looked down. There, on her pristine wooden floorboards leading from the front door, through the hallway, and directly towards her bed, were faint, dark, muddy footprints. They weren't Emma's. They were too large, too distinct. And her front door had been securely locked from the inside when she awoke. The muddy footprints ended at the side of her bed, but the real Emma never woke up again. The villagers noticed the change within days. Emma, who had been reserved, became different. Her eyes, once a vibrant blue, seemed a shade darker, less expressive. Her smiles were too wide, too slow. Her voice, while recognizably hers, had a subtly different cadence, a strange echo. And she no longer flinched when the church clock struck 2. In fact, sometimes a flicker of something almost like anticipation would cross her features. Whispers began in the quiet corners of Oak Haven, in the bakery, by the well, in the hushed aisles of the small general store. Old Mavis, who had lived in Oak Haven her entire 80 years, clutching her rosary beads, was heard to murmur, "It's back," wearing her face. Others nodded, their eyes wide with a fear born of ancient knowledge. Another one, someone else would whisper, "Always at 2 a.m., always the 7 knocks." The old folk of Oak Haven knew. They had seen it before, generations ago, and generations before that. A new face, a new life, drawn to the quiet beauty of Willow Creek. And then the knocking, the whisper, the empty doorstep. And finally, the subtle, chilling transformation. The body remains, a perfect shell, but the soul within, the essence of the person, was gone. The music swells slightly, then fades to a very soft, lingering note. Stories like Emma's remind us that beneath the tranquil surface of things, deep currents can flow, ancient and unknowable. The lure of the quiet life, the dream of a peaceful escape, can sometimes lead to an awakening of a far more sinister kind. It leaves us to wonder, what exactly answered Emma's unwitting call? And what would you do if the knocking came for you? If this story resonated with you, or perhaps sent a shiver down your spine, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe in such things, or is it just a chilling tale? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that linger long after the lights go out.